Om Shanti, and a very warm welcome from Inner Space in Romford. And I remember back to the early 80s, when I first came into the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University, it was very much inspired within me to have a full recognition of the wonder of the human soul. Because the human soul is the consciousness, the body is the 5 elements of earth, water, fire, oxygen and ether, and all of those commodities in whatever form they're in cannot replicate the consciousness. And we do have a kind of distant memory that the soul does exist. You know, when you get planes that are heading for the sea, they talk about how many souls are on board, and we say, save our souls. And the soul is something that is actually completely separate from the body. But most importantly of all about the soul is that the soul is metaphysical, which means that it's the true I that's connected to the true self. I'll say that again, the true I that is connected to the true self. So when we grow in this physical world, we know that the body ages, and even if it lasts as long as 80, 90 years of age, but the soul there's always that feeling inside of being something more than just the physical body. When we sleep, we switch off from our roles, and when we use the word my, it signifies that the I, the true I of the soul, of the self, is separate to what's mine. When we say my car, we know that the car is separate to the driver, and that's why we're using the word my. Otherwise we'd say I car or I body, but we know that we're completely distinct from the car that we're driving, and in the same way we're completely distinct from the physical body that we're driving as well. And when you think of something so very subtle, because technology nowadays is very subtle, and also the actual main qualification of the soul is that it's invisible, subtle and very powerful. And when you identify with the energy, you're actually bringing all your energies away from the material world and towards the true I. So when I say I, maybe a couple of 100 times a day we think or say I. For the purpose of this video, we're talking about the I of the true self, the soul. And just as where we communicate from the center of the forehead, we say the eyes are the windows to the soul, and the soul is so much more than just a very subtle point of light, but the soul has every single memory that you've ever had throughout so many lives. I say lives plural because the soul needs a physical body to play its role. The body is the costume, the soul is playing its role through the costume, so the eyes, nose, mouth, ears and the touch, 4 in the face, 4 sense organs, eyes, nose, mouth and ears and the touch are the five senses of the body, and the soul. And just to reiterate that it's the eye of the soul which we should be shifted towards, to get away from the feelings of the role, because it's the role that we have thoughts of disturbance about. We don't have thoughts of disturbance of the soul, but it's the soul that has the thoughts of disturbance about the role. So when you start to think about what pure thought is connected to your true identity, the identity of the self, the soul, the very tiny atma, which means soul, or when we use physics terminology, it's atom because it's very tiny, but that's a material thing, and that was no doubt taken originally from the word atma, which means soul. So when we say Om means I am, and just try to experience while I'm saying it, that I am. Shift your consciousness away from the form of the body and shift it towards the eye of the soul. See me here as a soul, as a very subtle point of light, like a shining star in the center of the forehead. Light is always attractive to us because we are actually light within the body. The light is eternal, it joins the body, and when the body's time runs out, it leaves the body. And so the eye of the soul, and Shanti, which is peace, that's what the true self is really made of. The soul itself is peace. So when I look for peace in the outside world, it means I'd be searching for peace of mind, and that would mean that my thoughts about a situation have to be peaceful for me to retain a temporary form of peace. But that's not you as the embodiment of peace. When you feel the light of what you are and shed the feelings of the body, you start to feel yourself to be the embodiment of peace. Or in Hindi, the words, much nicer words, Shanti Swarup, the embodiment of peace. And I was always captured by this wonder of the soul, because within this tiny point of light, like a chip, a microchip, or a tiny memory card that has all your lives, all your births logged within it. And although all the births that you've had have all gone, and this one is at the present time emerged, all the births that are merged are still recorded in the soul, in that tiny point of light. And when you leave this body and play another role, maybe become male or female, it's all dependent on, your actions that you create in this life, what determines your future lives. As I act, so I receive. As I speak, so I receive. As I think, well, thoughts are the foundation for words and actions. They're not a return until they come into the physical form. It's just that negative thoughts and bad thoughts make me feel unhappy, so I lose connection, I lose alignment with my true self, because my sense organs are deceiving me. And whenever any kind of deception takes place, a person feels a certain guilt or a certain conscience starts talking to them that this is not right, and then the person may try to justify that it's right, but the initial response to a bad thought or a negative thought, thinking of saying a particular bad thing, is the true test of a person, because there's a little light that lights up to shine to say that that's not what your true self is, that's against your true nature. And that's why justification has to take place. If it was our true nature, justification wouldn't have to take place. But then again, once the person has stopped listening to their conscience, then the voice of the conscience gets quieter as immorality becomes a state of amorality, where the person starts to accept that this is an okay way of existence, and the justification is now in a habit form, and we are creatures of habit, so the person wouldn't need the justification once they've quietened or not listened to their conscience. So basically they've ignored the conscience altogether. So the physical form that we're in has a lot to answer for, because it makes us biased towards our culture, biased towards our religion, biased towards our gender, even biased towards our beauty, our age, or biased, jealous about other people's beauty, even when we've lost our beauty, which we do, because physically we lose everything because we have to leave it, and spiritually we lose nothing. Spiritually you can retain everything and a great deal more, because when you're spiritual you start to create a communication field and a communication flow with the Supreme Being, the one that hides away behind all the gods and demigods is the Supreme Being. He doesn't have a body. We do have a body, but the body is temporary, but he's permanently beyond birth and death. We're in a cycle of birth and death that goes from new to old. And when the cycle's new, then we're in a state of wonder. Basically, if you can get your wonder back, then you'll have heaven. It has to be a spiritual wonder, not a physical or material wonder. But if you have your spiritual wonder of who you are, whose child you are, what you are, that is eternal light, energy, and that energy can then be used, can function to give people happiness, to give people peace, to give people love. All the commodities we hold so dear are our true nature. All the commodities we don't hold so dear are our false nature. We call it a second nature or acquired nature. And so the beauty of the soul is in the virtues. When you think about your virtues, you start to get caught up in the wonder of you. The wonder of the true you, not the one that's looking for wonder or looking for Mr. or Mrs. Wonderful, but the wonder of you. And the reason why there's so much breakdown of communications in relationships is because people aren't established in the wonder of the true self, and basically what it means to them. They become needy. The role makes us very needy, and you get two needy people coming together trying to formulate love together when everything's going according to bonds that we create with each other. Then there's happiness, there's peace. There's nothing more beautiful than falling in love But obviously the word falling is like falling, and it means that you're falling from love. So when you're falling in love, the true meaning of falling in love is you're falling in. You're falling in. So you're falling in love with the wonder of the self. So we call it self-love. It's not an arrogance about it because it's a permanent fixture. It's not something that's temporary that you can lose it to the outside world. It's always available to you. Excuse me. And so there's lots of songs about the wonder of you when no one else can understand me. I hold your hand and I'm a king. You give me love and understanding. You give me hope to carry on. I guess I'll never know the wonder why you love me as you do. That's the wonder of you. And you should start singing that to yourself. It's an Elvis Presley song. You can start singing it as soon as the video's over. You can start playing it and get caught up in going inside and experience the immortal, the eternal, the valuable self. All these qualities, which there are 36 qualities in the soul, 36 virtues in the soul: love, peace, patience, humility, gentleness, cooperation, tolerance, patience. When you start to use them with the understanding that you're building your self-worth and your self-respect, your wonder starts to emerge from the subconscious to the conscious, and you start to get caught up in your own wonder. So if there's any abuse coming your way, the wonder of you will be a light, a cordon of light around you. So all your roles are in the soul. So the soul's got caught up in its roles, none more so than in this life. Because every time the person says I, and they relate to the body, they're relating to the name of the body, the gender of who they think they are, their mother, their father, their children, or their relatives. And what happens is, instead of having pure love, because it's not coming from the true I, it becomes an attached love. And an attached love always lets you down because it's got control of the mind. When it's in the wonder of the self, then I'm in control. When I'm caught up in the wonder, then other people are pulling the strings and pushing the buttons of my consciousness. So it's not that I'm not in control, but I've just given them the reins or the strings. I can take them back. I can actually go inside and throw all the rubbish out. If I'm holding any bad feeling, go inside, touch the inner core of the self, which is pure peace, pure light, and pure energy, and you start to feel charged again. And then when you turn your mind to the powerhouse, the one that hasn't got a body, you start creating this pyramid effect. And the pyramid effect is that your mind is going to the source, and it's then connecting with other people. So it's coming back to me, and the vibrations are being instilled in the home, the environment, the surroundings. And so you get this pyramid effect. So the light is you're connecting, the light is coming back to you, that's affecting others. So you're giving good vibrations without the connection with I am giving them. I am giving them means I will need to take something from them later. So it becomes a dependency, and we all know what we've done for people. over the years, and that's because the impure eye of the body has told us so. So there's an arrogance or an ego about the I am giving this to this person, and I am aware it's in the memory bank. So once it's in the memory, it will come to my awareness. And if I ask them, you may think it's selfless, but if I ask them to do something and they don't do that for me as a favour because they're a friend and they can't or won't, either way they didn't, then there'll be this memory of what I did for them, and then the vibration towards them is a sour vibration. Whatever goes towards them in the pyramid, where you're actually connecting them to there without even thinking like that, so they get that connection. They're not being connected to me, they're being connected to the vibrations, because as I think, so I become, but also as I think, so it inspires others to become as well. I'm not thinking of others, I'm only thinking of myself. So it's the pure self, so it's not selfishness. When it's selfishness, it's the impure self, because there's an agenda and a motive behind it. There was a story about someone that mowed a lawn for an elderly lady, and he didn't want any thanks, he didn't want any appreciation, and he was just happy that he'd mowed her lawn. And then when she came back from her holiday, she said, "Goodness, look, the fairies have been, someone's mowed my lawn, who did this?" And she thanked the neighbour on the other side of the fence, and this chap overheard her speaking and praising, and what's more, the man on the other side of the fence who had done nothing took the praise for himself and said, "You're welcome anytime, I'm always here to help." And this man then felt like saying something because it was in his awareness that he'd done that. So I'm not saying we won't be aware of these things, of doing things for people, but they're done with less and less effect on the give and take between human beings. The give and take has become quite sour now, like a business, and that's because the awareness of the vibrations that are going backwards and forwards, can't trust this one, tried to trust this one, found out that you couldn't trust this one, so you're not going to put your trust. But remember, it's your trust. So we should always trust people, but not necessarily give them the keys to our house. But we should always trust them in the sense of having faith in others, because it's our faith, it's our quality. Trust is one of the 36 qualities of a person. And when they say, "I don't trust that person," they're actually divorcing themselves of their own divine virtue of trust. It's a major part of love, trust. And even if someone doesn't do a job well, you still inspire them, and then you can show them how to do it a little bit better. But none of this, that's rubbish. That's because you're affecting, when you don't exercise your virtues, they hide away. Their energy, they hide away until they're used once more. So if you get all 36 virtues going, and there's about 12 of them in love, in the whole virtue of love, the power of love holds about 12 of those of your qualities within it. So as soon as you're showing the love that you're experiencing from self-love, you're actually activating a lot of energy inside of you. And the wonder is it's all happening in this tiny point, this infinitesimal tiny spark, this living energy point of light. So I'm going to stop now because I don't want to bore you. Well, you might be bored already, but anyway, I've enjoyed myself today, and we'll finish with some meditation. Om Shanti. So practice in silence, going inside. Bringing the attention away from the world outside, turning the mind behind the eyes, bringing all your attention from the I and my of the body and the role, creating a link with a very subtle shining point, source of peace. Try to feel yourself to be light, light within the body, distinctly separate from your body. Resting in the center of the forehead, non-material, non-physical. You are spiritual energy, the living energy that enables the body to live. Focus your attention on an infinitesimal point of peace. Let go of the feelings of the body, energy. Feel the goodness within your consciousness. Delve into your consciousness and start to invoke your qualities from within. Invoke love. Invoke best wishes. The best wishes you've ever had and you've ever felt. Bring your best wishes for yourself, because you are not to blame for becoming form conscious, body conscious. Any error of judgment, any bad word or deed or even thought was not your fault. Let go of all traces of guilt, because you are not to blame for anything. We all became too conscious of our roles and unconscious to ourselves. Expand your light of good wishes, your light of love, so that it spreads and you can feel it spreading in all four directions: north, east, west and south. It's as if you're giving yourself to the whole of humanity, and there is enough of you to go around. Enjoy your light. It is now ignited. It is the true path of being spiritual, of spirituality. Your spirit all along was your most good self. Don't try to replace it with the good of anything connected to your role, because you will lose touch with your beauty, your wonder and your goodness. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti.